Hello YouTube, I'm Ephraim225 and it is time for another Mega Man playthrough from me. I'm doing a lot of these lately, but it's just been such a blast to play through all of these again, and I'm finally up to my all-time favorite Mega Man game in the classic series, Mega Man 4, or as it's known on this title screen, Rockman 4, New Ambition. I had this game as a kid. It was the only Mega Man game I actually had until I played like X1 and then Mega Man 1 and then Mega Man 3. So, you know, having spent so much time on this as a kid, I'm probably biased in my opinion, but I do believe that this is legit the best Mega Man game out of the first 6. And a lot of people who played 2 or 3 first might disagree with me, but really, no other game has the amount of balance and polish, like on the NES at least. I mean, I guess you could argue that X1 is a better game, but we're getting into semantics. The Mega Man series has always been pretty cool. So, the first new thing about Mega Man 4 is that there are a couple of alternate paths through stages. If you use Rush Coil to get over that pit instead of falling in, you will find another path with more quicksand. That's what this is. You have to jump every so often, or you'll sink into the sand and suffocate. But at the end of this path, you will find a secret hidden utility. The balloon utility, which is actually just a reskinned item 1 from Mega Man 2, but, you know, still cool to find, and because it teleports you further into the level, you actually skip a small section which has an E-Tank in it, so unfortunately we missed the first E-Tank, but that's not going to be a problem in this playthrough. So this section is a little bit dangerous because, of course, if you get hit by the platform shooting at you or the bats, you're going to fall into the spikes and you have to get out of there before your invulnerability runs out or you just die. And in this section, we are going to see the other new addition to Mega Man 4 that sticks with the entire series, mostly. It is the Charge Shot. If you hold the button down, you can unleash a more powerful blast, which lets you really get the jump on enemies. It would take a lot more shots to deal with the mummies if you just use the regular blaster, but I'm sure anybody with a fast finger could mash through them anyways. Some people think that the Charge Shot makes the game way too easy because it does 3 damage to bosses. I say that I'm green! I say that the Charge Shot allows any boss to be beaten first without using any weapons. In fact, I will not use weapons against bosses the first time I fight them. In the rematches, we will see the weaknesses used. But yeah, in previous Mega Man games, you have bosses like Elect Man or Quick Man who are just exceedingly difficult to defeat without their weakness weapon, and it kind of hurts the idea of being able to choose the stages in any order if you are just going to have a really rough time without the weaknesses. So I like the Charge Shot for that reason. There are still like bosses in Mega Man 4 that are not fun to fight, but we'll get to them. One thing I will say about Mega Man 4 is, and this is probably due to me just having played it so much, some of the bosses feel exceedingly easy. Like, there's just no challenge to it whatsoever. But, you know, that's probably just due to my relative level of experience, because like with the Fire Emblem games, I think some of the Fire Emblem games are way too easy, but I've played them so many times. Maybe that's the reason I think that. So we're moving on to Bright Man stage after having completed Pharaoh Man stage. Bright Man stage has a couple of gimmicks to it. Like, the lights can go out when you shoot one of those light bulb enemies. Not really used to any great degree. Like with the darkness gimmick in Shadow Man stage, it doesn't really affect much. I mean, there's one pit that might surprise you, but you could just sit there and wait for the lights to come back on. So this is the balloon adapter, which, again, it's basically item 1 from Mega Man 2. The cool thing is that if you fire it while you're jumping upwards, you are almost guaranteed to land on the balloon. So that's pretty cool. I don't think item 1 was the same way. So this is the Pharaoh Shot. It is this game's version of Metal Blade. I say that a lot, but it's really true. Pharaoh Shot is just crazy. You can fire it upwards, you can fire it downwards, and they've combined it with Atomic Fire, which means that this is the second charged special weapon. Like, even when you have the Charge Shot for the Buster, you can still charge the Pharaoh Shot. And did you notice that the charged Pharaoh Shot was above my head? That can still hit enemies, and it's going to be way useful. The weapons in Mega Man 4 are almost universally useful and excellent. So, good weapon balance. Well, good weapon balance. Some of the weapons are just broken. And I'm using Balloon to get over the totem pole so I don't have to actually fight them. Not really sure what grasshoppers, spikes, and totem poles have to do with light bulbs. They're kind of breaking the theme of the stage. Maybe it's because bugs like to fly around light bulbs, so that explains the grasshoppers. Then we have spinning tops, which probably should have been in Top Man's stage. I don't know. These stage themes, they're never like... They never fully stick to the theme, I guess. This is another part where I question the light bulb enemy's purpose, because other than shooting at you, like, there's nothing wrong with really shooting one of them and making the lights go out, because these platforms that I'm hopping across, they don't disappear or anything. So that can be a difficult section to get through, and the checkpoint is quite a ways back if you accidentally fall down. Speaking of annoying parts of the game, Brightman is known as a not-so-great boss battle. And the reason for that is he has, like with Flashman, he has the ability to freeze you in place. Now, you're not going to notice it happening very much because there's actually a trick to this. If you shoot him once with a regular Buster Shot and then use only charge shots, you will almost never see the Flash Stopper, as it's called. And if he jumps into you while you're stopped, then that does a lot of damage, and there's almost no way to avoid it if you're frozen at the wrong angle. The reason shooting him once with an uncharged shot and then using only charged shots works is because the Flash Stopper only comes out at specific health thresholds. So that's a very easy way to just skip all the health thresholds and never see a Flash Stopper. And by the way, never refer to the Flash Stopper as the Bright Stopper. I know it's very easy to get confused because Flashman has the Time Stopper and now Brightman has the Flash Stopper. Weird naming convention. We're moving on to Dive Man stage, which is an underwater level. So anyways, the Flash Stopper is a very useful ability because unlike with a Time Stopper, you can actually fire your regular Buster while you're using it, and it's going to come up in this stage in just a little bit. And of course, we still have that ever-present slide. Sliding, I'm not sure if you're able to jump out of the slide the same way as you could in Mega Man 3. It's apparently a little bit different. So, we've got a mini-boss here that we are going to freeze in place before it's even finished teleporting in. Isn't that interesting? And then, boom, he's gone. The Flash Stopper is so busted in this game. It does so much good things. You can freeze these guys. That was a very bad place to freeze them because you can still be damaged by them. And on this screen, we have a new ally to introduce. This is Eddie, aka Flip Top, who's supposed to give you a useless item, but for some reason, he's given me an E-Tank. Wow, I did not know he could give you E-Tanks in this game. That's actually crazy. Flip Top is supposed to, supposedly he gives you, the most useless items ever. He'll give you life energy when you're already full on health. He'll give you weapon energy when you don't even have any weapons yet, but for some reason, I got an E-Tank there. Alright, that was a little bit early to freeze him, because now I have to jump all the way up to shoot at him. And we briefly saw the completed form of that mini-boss before I blew him up. Now, down that pit is another alternate path. It leads to a vertical shaft filled with spikes, like we've seen in the previous two games, and it leads to the wire utility. The wire is not so great a utility. Oh, by the way, on this screen, you can just slide through. Very easy. I don't know why they didn't test that. The wire is not such a good ability because, it lets you cling to the ceiling and climb up it. And you can damage enemies with a wire too, but it's just not that good. So anyways, the magic of video editing has caused my like bar to increase all the way to full, because I died to Dive Man, and I didn't want to bother showing you it. I want to pretend I'm perfect at this game, but I'm still kind of not. So Dive Man it feels like a tutorial for using the charge shot, because, he shoots out the dive missiles from his crotch. I don't know why. Oh, hey, this is annoying. The game has to wait until all of the sprites are off screen before completing the stage. So that little bubble actually from Mega Man's breathing, I guess, caused a little bit of delay in ending the stage. And because I was in the dead center of the screen when the game wanted to make him absorb the power or whatever, so it just kind of hops him up to the center of the screen. It's a little bit of a glitch. So I was saying that fighting Dive Man, I'm way behind the video now, but When fighting Dive Man, the charge shot will actually go through all of his dive missiles to hit him, and he never moves vertically. He's always in that same horizontal position. So, using the charge shot there can actually be more effective than his weakness, which is why I am using only the Buster the first time against bosses. Anyways, this is Dive Missile, as you've seen. That enemy dropped an extra life in the wall where I can't get it. How annoying. The Dive Missile homes in on enemies, but it's not 100% reliable because for some reason it tends to try not to hit the target. I don't know what's up with that. Look at this. Why did it go around behind the enemy? That doesn't make any sense. It was dead on headed right for its target. That's so weird. Alright, so we have a very skippable mini-boss here. It's, for some reason, a giant hippo on a platform. Not really sure what that has to do with rings in Ringman stage, but if you knock him down a couple pegs, you can just jump over him and damage boost through him. So yeah, skippable mini-boss. Some might consider that a flaw in the programming. I call it just a little something for the pros to abuse and impress the new people. So Pharaoh Shot's pretty good here. It is highly effective against this mini-boss. Just one charged Pharaoh Shot destroys it. And we have another Hippo mini-boss that I'm going to skip in exactly the same way. This second mini-boss isn't really that different from the previous incarnation, so I don't know what the deal is here. So we have some enemies that are normally very annoying to deal with. One charged Pharaoh Shot destroys them, but if you are too late with your shot, they will put their guard up and try to ram into you. Very annoying. Alright, so we have little Saturn-themed enemies. I guess that's ring-themed. Saturn does have rings. And we are apparently in space now, because I see planets in the background. What's going on here? Is this gonna be like Crashman stage? Well, due to the verticality of the stage, I guess it is kind of like Crashman stage. So another mini-boss gets destroyed in one hit. At least that guy was ring-themed. And we move on to Ringman himself. Ringman. That just sounds so weird. In Battle Network, they actually made Ringman into a girl. I'm green again. So yeah, move over Splash Woman. Ringman was a ring woman first. And Ringman is actually very difficult for new players because this pattern is not easy to memorize. You just gotta keep in mind when the ring boomerangs are going to fly towards him instead of continuing on their horizontal path towards you. So yeah, if you know the pattern, that's very simple. Still very difficult to defeat him without getting hit, but I managed it. His weakness is actually the Pharaoh Shot. A lot of bosses in this game are weak to the very weapon that is highly useful in the stage itself. Which is another reason that I use only the Buster against them in the first go-around. Ring Boomerang is basically Shadow Blade, except you can't, like, fire it in, any direction you please. And it's also the weakness of Dustman for some reason. Why is Dustman weak to rings? Well, hasn't your wife ever lost her ring to a vacuum cleaner? I'm sure she got very angry when it happened. Hey! That's rude. You can't just pop out of the ground like that and hit me, knock me into the pit for an instant death. Okay, the reason I did that actually is I knew that was there. I just wanted to get a game over so I get all my lives back. Yeah. So instead I'm just going to use the Flash Stopper to freeze everything so they don't pop out and hit me. That enemy can really only kill you once, to be honest. Like, once you know about it, it's called an up and down, apparently. But once you know it's there, you're probably going to lose a lot of lives to it, actually, if it's your first time playing, but whatever. So we have a section with some pretty noticeable slowdown. They haven't really gotten rid of the slowdown and lag issues, but it doesn't crop up as often as it did in Mega Man 3, so that's a good thing. I'm just going to freeze all these enemies. They die in one hit to Dive Missile, but Dive Missile is so unreliable sometimes, especially with these enemies, because they actually shoot off the propellers. What did I just get? Did I just get an extra life? Another E-Tank from Flip Top? Are you kidding me? Anyways, those enemies from before, since their little propeller flies off into the sky, the Dive Missile, that Meteor was floating on air. Did you notice? Anyways, getting back to the enemy from before, I haven't even talked about how useful Ring Boomerang is here because it clears away all of the dust, I guess, all of this trash, making it easier to get through without getting smashed by the compactors. So yeah, the point I was trying to make with that enemy earlier is that dive missile can sometimes go after the propeller flying into the sky instead of the enemy that's actually trying to hit you. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not sure what the threat is supposed to be here. It's just a Mentor on platforms that you're not going to get knocked off of. Yeah. So we have yet another big enemy in front of the boss door, but he just jumps over me, very courteously using the large jump instead of a series of small jumps that I can't avoid. Here we go. Let's fight against Dustman, who is one of the more known, very weak bosses in Mega Man 4. But, yeah, I think he would be a little bit of a challenge to a new person because that Dust Crusher that he fires off, if you do not know that it splits into diagonal directions instead of horizontal directions, you might not know that you just have to jump straight up. The annoying thing is that like with Magnet Man, he has this attack where he just sits there, sucking you in, and you can't damage him during this point, so it's very annoying. What does he do? He clearly doesn't absorb the shot because it's blocked by the suction. I don't know. But it's very much a time-wasting boss. This is one of those moments where you have to rely on luck if you want the fight to not take a while. But it's fine. He's a decent enough boss. You know, he serves his purpose, I guess, which is sucking. Vacuum sucking. I am entertaining. I just take all my jokes from Let's Players who have already made such jokes. So we got Dust Crusher, which has a lot of attack power. It's not the most used weapon in the game, but it is pretty decent. It can have a lot of attack power because when it splits into the 4 little dust bits, those little dust bits can actually damage the same enemy. I think I'm going to use it here at the beginning of Skullman's stage. It's at the bottom of the screen for some reason. So yes, we have cannons that fire. I've always thought that these were footballs for some reason, but I don't even know what they are. They just bounce around the screen. Kind of crazy, actually. A little silly to watch them go. So yes, you're seeing Dust Crusher. The little dust bits don't really usually hit anything. It's kind of like Gemini Laser in that it's one of those weapons that you have to know where to fire it in order for the secondary effects to be useful. So that Skull Joe enemy, you just shoot him with a charged Pharaoh shot and he dies. If you use only the Buster, hey, an extra life. If you use only the Buster, then he will eventually get back up again. He's kind of like those blood skeletons. Another extra life? What is this, Mega Man 5? So yeah, the Skull Joe, kind of like the blood skeleton from Castlevania, if you've ever played that. And Flip Top finally gave me something kind of useless. I could have refilled one of my other weapons, I guess. So, there's a little side path here with the world's easiest E-Tank to get. I mean, I guess fighting through these shield enemies might be annoying, but you can just go through the bottom path and then rush Coil up to where the E-Tank is. It probably should have been on the top part where that large energy capsule was. Yeah, I complain a lot about easy to get E-Tanks because I think that E-Tanks should be like a little bit more challenging to get because of how powerful they are, and you don't even lose them all when you get a game over anymore. The E-Tank down there can be kind of a challenge to get because you have some annoying jumps that you have to make, and this jump you also kind of have to inch over to the edge in order to make that leap. But I suppose you could use a balloon or Rush Coil. Rush Coil makes some of these edge jumps easier because you can use him to get a little extra distance instead of just relying on your own instinct inching all the way to the edge of the platform without falling off. Alright, so we have an annoying thing here. I'm pretty sure this could have been a single large energy capsule instead of just a bunch of little capsules, but whatever. We're up to the boss. The screen is red for some reason. The background is red. We have a dinosaur bone structure in the background, which is pretty cool. Skullman, again, has an attack where he just blocks all of your moves and you can't do anything. He doesn't try to ram into you like that or anything. He actually tries to ram into you after the skull barrier is down, and then he just resumes his normal shooting pattern. So yeah, another potential time-wasting boss. I guess that's not good. Like, maybe if he fired the shield at you, that would be kind of cool, but then that would just be repeating Woodman. Oh, I've really got to be careful now. I'm down to just a little bit of health, and he's going to try and walk into me as soon as the skull barrier is down, but once you get this pattern down, he's not, like, the worst boss in the world. You've just got to avoid collision damage at all costs, and you're basically dead now, Skull Man. Well, you were already dead because you're a skeleton, but then again, you're a robot skeleton, so I guess that doesn't make any sense. I should just stop talking. Especially since my jaw's starting to hurt. Oh, hey, I got the glitch by standing in the very center of the screen. That saves me a little bit of time. Skull Barrier is an underrated weapon. Unlike with Leaf Shield, you can move while you've got the barrier up, but again, like with Leaf Shield, Skull Barrier's ammo is not that great. Still, it's a useful defensive weapon because you can move around without having to worry about enemies touching you. If you know enemies are going to die in one hit to the Skull Barrier, then, go ahead and use it. You can not worry about hitting them and focus on the platforming, which is important in a couple of stages. And I am ignoring you, Extra Life. I do not want you. So they just put a large enemy here for some reason, and I'm stumbling over my words again. So yeah, gonna see some dive missile usage here. It is actually Drill Man's weakness. So again, it can be useful in the stage itself. It's almost as if the stage itself is weak to dive missile, not that dive missile is like stupidly good or anything. So on this screen we have an Extra Life that is a bit of a tease. That jump is very hard to make, getting in and out without dying. So on this screen we have a spike ceiling that is a complete placebo. You will not hit your head into the spikes, no matter how high you jump, unless you use like Rush Coil or something. Here's a screen that's very good to use Flash Stopper in because you can freeze the enemies while they're vulnerable, but then you kind of have to wait for the bullets to fly off the screen because they fire like instantly. And here we have a free E-Tank. As long as you know, you can use Rush Coil to get up there. How is that a challenge to get? Again, like, I just think that this game gives away too many E-Tanks for free. Like, again, relative level of skill. I end up having like 6 or 7 E-Tanks by the end of the game, but, I'm sure it's helpful for the beginning player. So Pharaoh Shot is very good here. You can see that by keeping the charged shot above me and never firing at it, it is just going through all these enemies and not even disappearing, because it would only disappear if it hit an enemy that it does the exact amount of damage needed to kill. But it does more than the amount needed, so it's going to stick around and just block my head from every boulder except that last one, because I did not charge up before going through here. I don't have nearly enough life to take out Drill Man without dying, so you're gonna see the magic of video editing yet again. Drill Man is probably the only boss in the game out of the first 8 that I would consider very poorly designed. At the beginning, he will burrow underground, and then there's really no way to know where he's going to pop up. And he can waste a lot of time burrowing underground and then popping back up again. You want him to do this jumping motion because it's the easiest to dodge. And this relentless assault of drill bombs is also very difficult to dodge perfectly. So yeah, when speedrunners play this game, it's complete RNG. They want Drill Man to not burrow underground, but he keeps doing it for me right here. And, he does so much damage with collision as well. It's crazy. And the drill bombs actually block your shots too. That's another annoying thing. So at this point I figured, Flip Top is giving me 2 free E-Tanks. I don't feel bad about using one against Drill Man. He's just that crazy to deal with only the Buster. I mean, I could use his weakness, Dive Missile, and that would at least let me, Dive Missile is actually good here because you can fire it and then focus completely on the dodging, because the Dive Missile will find its target for you. And I've beaten Drill Man with only the Buster, however, and I didn't need the E-Tank! I completely wasted it! I didn't take a single hit after using it! I was gonna die on the next hit, so I thought I would need it, and I wasted the E-Tank. This is supposed to be my favorite Mega Man game that I've played for 30 years, and I am just putting on such a horrible playthrough for you guys. I'm so sorry. Nah, I don't really think that. Hey, finally we got our Rush Jet back. Rush Jet is back for Mega Man 4 and it has been completely nerfed. it now goes forward automatically. In fact, I think you use it at the beginning of this stage. It now goes forward automatically, and you can only really adjust it up or down. So it's not nearly as powerful as it was, and the energy constantly drains as well. So it's like if they had actually put that extra bit of polish onto Mega Man 3, this is what Rush Jet might have looked like. So anyways, here we go. Just gonna fly over all of these gaps because these are some very annoying gaps. What you can't really see is that the rain actually pushes you backwards while you're in the air. So these can be some very annoying jumps to make. If you misestimate the jump, then you're gonna fall into the pit. And this leads to a lot of edge jumps for that section, but luckily you have Rush Coil, you have Rush Jet, you can use those to get by. So in this section coming up here, we are in the sewers, apparently, which is appropriate for frogs, because this is Toadman stage. Free life! Again. So Skull Barrier is good here, because due to the water pushing you around, making it very annoying to dodge these enemies while shooting at them, you can use Skull Barrier to focus on the dodging part, or at least the movement part, and if they run into you, they die in one hit to the Skull Barrier anyways. Here's a mini-boss that is completely skippable with Flash Stopper. Almost said Bright Stopper. And there's another one coming up that is also skippable with Flash Stopper. So this weapon is so good. You have to be a little bit careful though, because there is that pit right in front of where the hitbox is. And we're going to use some more Flash Stopper here. You might be wondering if anything happened to Rush Marine between Mega Man 3 and Mega Man 4. Well, Rush Marine is actually given when you beat Toadman stage. We are in Toadman stage, and there's water in Toadman stage where Rush Marine might be useful. Yeah, is it any surprise that they retired Rush Marine starting with Mega Man 5? Well, anyways, we're up against Toadman, who nobody has ever died to ever, because he is easily the weakest boss in the whole series. He may look like he's jumping around and trying to activate his ability, the Rain Flush, which will damage everything on the screen, including me, but you can see that as long as you shoot at him with a buster, it will interrupt his Rain Flush and he will never be able to actually use it. And he will always go for either a jump, which you can slide under, or a Rain Flush. So, easily the weakest boss in the whole series. I have no idea why they didn't try to make him a little bit more of a threat. Like, maybe have him jump around a lot before Rain Flush starts activating. I don't know. I don't know what they were doing there. See, the bosses in Mega Man 4, even though they are very much balanced around, like, you can use only the buster to defeat them rather easily if you know what you're doing and you know the pattern. Like, some of them are just, they aren't designed all that well, or they don't have the hardest pattern in the world. I don't know what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that we are onto the Fortress stages already. So the plot of this game is that there is a new Mad Doctor named Dr. Kozak who is trying to destroy Mega Man for some reason. I guess he's just jealous of Dr. Light's skill with robots, so he decided to send out 8 of his own and do exactly the same thing Dr. Wily did several games prior. So at the beginning of the first Fortress stage, there's a free E-Tank off to the left hidden in the snow. I'd say that's actually a pretty hard E-Tank to find, so it's probably worth it if you search for it. You've probably earned it. But, like, the other thing is, if you know it's there, it's a free E-Tank. And I know it's there. Yeah. So we've got Slinky bots. Okay. Slinkies. Don't know what's going on there. So I'm going to demonstrate Toadman's weapon. It is a screen-clearing weapon that pierces a lot of invincible enemies. Those 2 enemies had their guard up, but not with Rain Flush. So we've got another annoying section. There's a lot of ice physics in this stage because we're apparently in Russia, which is definitely a very cold place. So we're just going to skip past all of the ice physics. It's one of those annoying enemies from Dustman stage again. Ugh. We're just going to skip past all of them with Rush Jet. You should be conservative with your Rush Jet, however. Maybe stop for that weapon energy capsule because you kind of need a lot of utilities coming up here. For example, you need either the balloon or Rush Coil to get past these 2 screens. I don't know what that enemy is doing there. It's the most ineffective enemy ever, and now it's snowing, which doesn't really do anything, but the effect is really cool. Get it? Snow. That was unintentional, I swear. I did not make that pun intentionally. No pun intended. Yeah, so just rush jet to get to that last ladder because there are some weapon energy capsules if you want to pick them up. And this is the drill bomb. I'm actually demonstrating it. It takes out the large enemies in only 2 hits, so it's a very good weapon. And it may not be the weakness of this first fortress boss, but it's actually more effective. What you can actually do with a drill bomb is detonate it prematurely. So, because of the drill bomb's big explosion, detonating it, I can't say that word, detonating it prematurely can actually let it hit the boss, even if you missed by a couple of pixels. So, very interesting weapon. Glad they made it that way. Other than detonating it like that, it is pretty much just a fire it straight weapon, but it's got a lot of attack power in it too, which is also very good. Alright, so only 7 stages to go. There are only 16 stages in this game, which is, I think, a new record for a Mega Man game. Depends on what you count as a stage, I guess, because obviously the final stage is nothing but the end boss. Alright, so Cossack Stage 2. We start with absolutely nothing. And... oh, here we are. More enemies. I thought this was going to end up like a Mega Man 3 Wily Fortress stage. So there is a mandatory Rush Jet segment coming up, but I also want to fill up my Drill Bomb energy because conserving weapon energy is very important. This fortress sequence actually starves you for a lot of weapon energy, which I think is a good thing. It gets you to use a lot of your weapons. Alright, so this is the mandatory Rush Jet segment. Kind of annoying if you don't know where the energy capsules are going to be in case you need to refill. But I think you can get all the way to the end without ever having to refuel. And we have some annoying platforms. They're not exactly the disappearing bricks, but they're kind of similar, I guess, in that you have to time your jumps properly, and I completely failed in this room. I already know what's going to happen. So I rush jet over here, and then I think, well, what am I going to do now? I need to get over the spikes here. So I jumped over this way, and then I completely failed and fell all the way back down to the first ladder. So that was a good waste of a couple of seconds. Yeah, maybe if I hadn't failed that, I wouldn't have had to edit my videos so much in order to get under 1 hour. I don't know why I'm so, like, hooked on having my video end up being only an hour long. But, I don't know, I guess too long of a video would make it draining for the viewers. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that if you get hit while a Rush utility is out, Rush teleports towards you. Which is kind of helpful, I guess, if you've got Rush Jet or Rush Marine. Like, that'll save you from falling at the very least. But for Coil, that's probably seriously annoying. Are we up to the boss yet? Oh no, we actually have another annoying room if you want to get that E-Tank, so... this is one E-Tank that I would say you do have to kind of put some effort in to get to, because you could get hit by that spike trap, and then fall back down to the previous room. So you gotta wait for the little spike thing to get up towards the top of the screen before you can slip into this corridor, and then I'm completely failing on finding the little gap to get through. Like with the Crash Bomb and the Hard Knuckle, the Drill Bomb can destroy certain walls, and this edge jump is completely annoying. So you can use it to pick up a couple of E-Tanks coming up in the following stages. And Cossack's second boss is actually very interesting in design, even if it is kind of a weird looking boss. It's an entire, I guess it's an entire room that attacks you, which is really cool. The collision can be kind of weird because, you know, if you slide under it, then there's always the chance the collision detection will be weird, but it's weak against Dust Crusher. And you'll notice that a lot of bosses here on out are weak to similar weapons, which is another reason the game kind of starves you for ammo here, because you might run out of the ammo for the weakness of whatever boss you're up against, which happened a lot. That's an example of the glitch in this room, by the way, with this boss. So yeah, you just gotta get up there and shoot at the little red dot that's shooting at you. Can be difficult to avoid, and it does a hefty amount of damage. So yeah. And you might think that Rain Flush can hit it because it hits everything on the screen. That doesn't happen. So no Rain Flush. And you also want to conserve your ammo with that too, because Rain Flush has a very low ammo count. So does Flash Stopper, come to think of it. But Flash Stopper, you know, it freezes the time for so long that, you know, you don't really have to worry about ammo. So we're up to stage 3 of Dr. Kozak's castle, which is, get this, an auto-scroller. In Mega Man, an auto-scroller. Speedrunners must, like, lose their minds when they get to this stage. But it's a good stage to demonstrate a bunch of different weapons. Dive missile, skull barrier, anything you want, really. Because it will protect you from enemies. Well, not in this first section, because this first section has a bunch of invincible enemies, like these spikes that, or are they saws, sparks? I don't know. But they feel like they were ripped straight out of a Mario title, to be honest. Right, so just take this bottom path because it's easier. The top path has a reward for you in the form of a weapon energy capsule. I suppose you could maybe rush coil your way up there. Maybe the gap is too big. Or you could use the balloon. I don't know. But since it's an auto-scroller, you don't have a bunch of time to be running around. That weapon energy capsule is totally free, no matter what path you've taken, and I probably should have picked it up. So now we wait for the enemy to come on screen, and then I blast him with a drill bomb. It's worth noting that there's actually a glitch in this stage if you actually brought the wire adapter, because you can hook yourself onto a wall and then let the auto-scrolling push you off of the wire, and then you just go off into space. You just fly upwards, and that lets you skip the entire section as long as you break the wire so that you drop down in time before the auto-scrolling smushes you against the wall. So it's not really that useful of a glitch because you have no idea how high up you actually are until you've fallen into a pit or something. This is where Skull Barrier comes in handy, or you could use Dive Missile, either way. And we just have to get past these platforms. You have to stay on the right side of the screen, and I don't know what the platform beneath that platform is for. But you have to stay on the right side of the screen because when you get to the end, there is a platform that you have to have sink all the way down to the passage so you can get through. And if you're too far to the left, you won't be able to make it in time before the screen smushes you against nothing, I guess. Now, this E-Tank is a little bit of a puzzle to get. You need the balloon adapter. I don't think there's any other way to get it. So when you enter the boss room here, if you jump in instead of sliding in like me, you can sometimes get a weird glitch where Mega Man walks on air. And this boss is pretty much weak against Pharaoh Shot. I mean, I don't know what its true weakness would be, probably Ring Boomerang, but if I use too much Ring Boomerang, I won't have it for the other bosses, and Pharaoh Shot has done a decent job on its own. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, not much to say about this boss. It crawls around the screen. One thing's for certain, though, do not finish it off with Flash Stopper, because you will softlock the game for some reason. Not that anyone would use Flash Stopper, it doesn't freeze the guy in place or anything. You can also have a visual glitch by using a balloon and getting on it so that you fall into the spikes when it disappears after the game starts playing the victory fanfare. You'll be standing on the spikes, but you won't take any damage or anything. Don't try that too soon, though, because then you'll just die and have to do the boss all over again. Oh, hey, it looks like the final stage has a path split, if the map is any indication, so that should be interesting to look at. 2 more free weapon energy capsules. I guess refilling at them would have been a good idea, considering how much energy I need later on. That E-Tank is completely free as long as you have Drill Bomb. And I guess as long as you don't get hit and fall into the pit. Alright, I'll give them a pass on that particular E-Tank, but for some reason Dr. Kozak is pulling a Wily here and giving us so much free stuff. As long as you can find it. Right, so the alternate path is right here. You need Drill Bomb to get through. And then you just fall, and there's a free E-Tank as long as you have a Drill Bomb. Okay, I'm not letting that one go. There are way too many free E-Tanks. I'm pretty sure I am up to the maximum of 9. Anyways, We have some sliding to get through. And another large energy capsule if you fight through that enemy to get to it. And then in this room we have very easy enemies before the boss, which is Dr. Kozak himself. I love how heavily they're leaning into the Russian theme of this castle, by the way. Kozak, a red star for the little icon on the map, and the castle itself, which is very Russian looking. I'm almost expecting Dr. Kozak to challenge me to a game of Tetris, but no, he's got a crane game going instead. That crane can actually pick up Mega Man for a lot of damage. Not exactly weak against Dust Crusher, but again, I'm conserving Ring Boomerang. And now it's time for a plot twist, because it turns out that Dr. Kozak was actually not doing this of his own accord. His daughter had been taken hostage by none other than, are you ready for this? Dr. Wily. Of course. It's always Wily at the end of the day anyways. Have you played Mega Man X5? Even in games that don't feature the Mad Doctor himself, he's still behind the scenes doing something. According to X5 dialogue, which doesn't really get followed up on because plot in Mega Man games, whatever. So yeah, Mega Man was right in front of Dr. Wily for that cutscene, but apparently he managed to escape into his little flying saucer, so we could do the eyeball thing, the eyebrow thing, jeez, and then fly off to his actual fortress. Okay. Why didn't you just incapacitate him right there? You were surrounded by Kozak, his daughter Kalinka, that's another Russian thing, by the way, and Mega Man himself, and Proto Man was right behind him, too, because Proto Man was the one who rescued Kalinka. That's his only appearance in this game, though. And maybe he'll have a greater appearance in Mega Man 5. Who knows? Alright, so the gimmick of Wily Stage 1 is that the entire stage is flooded with only one kind of enemy, the Mettaur. All the enemies are Mettaurs, which means that the only enemy you have to deal with is the weakest enemy in the game. And some spike traps coming up in the only underwater section after Dive Man and Toad Man stages, which means we can finally see some Rush Marine usage in Mega Man 4. But Rush Marine isn't even that good here, because eventually, you know, swimming through all of these spikes without having to time your jumps correctly is cool and all, but eventually you get to this little gap here, which is too small for the Rush Marine to get through without smashing into the spikes. I mean, unless your movement is pixel perfect, but then again, none of my moves are ever pixel perfect. Alright, so that's the end of that water segment and the end of Rush Marine for the rest of the game, and the entire series, very unfortunately. Ah, Rush Marine, I wish there was a better... I wish they had done Rush Marine better, but they would have had to add much more water segments, and oh, here we go. Using Rush Jet to skip the infamous disappearing bricks, or in this case, balloon. I skipped most of the disappearing bricks. But there you go. Much faster to do that than actually dealing with the bricks. I don't see why they keep having that trap in every game. It's not usually a great game design trap. So, yeah, another free E-Tank. It's not really that hard to get to it. It's just in that little tank of water. I think I'm going to actually use one of my E-Tanks because I'm very low on health, and if I die to a boss in a fortress stage in Mega Man 4, the checkpoint is not the doors right before it, so you actually have to be really careful not to die if you don't want to repeat a large chunk of the stage. So maybe that's what all the E-Tanks are for. Right. So yeah, this boss is a giant Mettaur. It's not the first time we've had to deal with a giant Mettaur. We dealt with two of them in the Needleman revisit in the previous game. When he lands after a jump, he actually freezes you if you are on the ground. So that can be very bad if you're inside of his hitbox, because you'll just take another hit as soon as your invulnerability wears off. But with Ring Boomerang, that's not really a difficult boss, but you see that I'm low on Ring Boomerang now. And unfortunately, like, there's two more bosses that are weak to it. The second Fortress boss and the inevitable Dustman refight. Actually, there's another boss after that that's weak to Ring Boomerang. A lot of bosses just hate rings, apparently. I don't know what's up with that. I'd hate to see what their reaction to being in a Lord of the Rings movie would be. Alright, so some non-threatening spikes kick off this stage, and now we have some actually threatening spikes. You have to be very careful with the jump there. And that E-Tank is not free because it's dangerous to get to. It might be easy. You might think it's easy to get up there with Balloon, but not for a first-timer. I skipped it though because I just have 8 E-Tanks already. I'm addicted to E-Tanks. I need help. I seriously need help to get rid of this E-Tank addiction, but unfortunately they don't stop using E-Tanks until Mega Man 8. It's actually interesting that Mega Man 8 had no E-Tanks. An extra life from Flip Top is interesting, I guess, but how did Flip Top even get into the castle? Like, the same way Rush is teleporting in, I guess? If Rush can teleport in, why doesn't Mega Man just teleport into the room with Wily in it? I don't know. These are dumb questions that should not be asked because thinking about it for too long will ruin your experience. Anyways, we have more mummies, we have more unnecessary wasting Rush Jet. There's really not any more mandatory jet segments, and then there's this where I tried to fiddle around with Rush Jet before, and then I tried to use the balloon. Just because of the low ceiling, it's better to use Rush Coil, and yeah. I've also started to notice that the background might be ruining the video quality with how interesting and intricate it is. So I hope that's not an issue. It doesn't appear to be. So that's another screen where you can use Rain Flush to get rid of the problematic enemies before they have a chance to do anything. And Drill Bomb against these two large-ish enemies. 2 shots does them in. It's interesting that they would put the, I guess you would call them gumball machines. I wonder if they're hinting towards anything. Ah well, we're up to the boss. Second fortress boss of the Wily Fortress, and it's, oh look, a giant gumball machine. I've always called this the giant gumball machine just because of these giant balls that it fires out. I guess they're bombs or something. So that green dot is the weak point, which can be very difficult to hit with your Buster because you have to really be on point. And there's also this 1 pixel wide little spot directly in front of it where you can stand and jump. But that's a pretty dangerous spot to be, and I've unfortunately ran out of ring energy, so I'm going to have to switch to the Buster here, and you will see what I mean when I say this requires you to be very on point. Look at this. It looked like that last shot was dead on, but I had to actually take another shot. So that's the end of all of the regular stages. Now we are on to the stage with the boss rematches. So you are going to see all of the weaknesses used now. And then we will have another boss immediately after it, because this stage is a lot like the Mega Man 2 boss rush instead of the Mega Man 3 boss rush, where after the rematches in 3, it was just over then, but there's going to be one more boss after it this time. Hey look, a free E-Tank! Again! I'm thankful for the weapon energy capsules this time though, because I was almost out of all of the good stuff that I would need. You especially want to conserve Pharaoh Shot because, spoiler alert, it's required for the final boss, unfortunately. Like, that's the one issue I have with this game, and filling up Flash Stopper with that weapon energy capsule is a huge waste. So yeah, we're just going to fill up everything that I think I'm going to need for this boss rush here. Boss rush. That makes me think of what it would be like to fight Rush in a Mega Man game. I think there's a ROM hack that somebody did at the beginning of the new year. Like, this one really great ROM hacker, he makes a new hacked boss battle every year around January, and they're all really cool. I think he did exactly what I just said for one of them. This will be interesting to maybe go through at some point. But yeah, here are the rematches with all of Dr. Kozak's robots, which for some reason have appeared in Wily's Fortress. I don't know how that works. Maybe Wily actually designed all of the robots and he needed Dr. Kozak's resources because he ran out doing all of that stuff for Gamma in Mega Man 3? That's my headcanon. So yeah, Drillman's being a lot kinder. I think you can actually see him if you are on the far left because he will appear like, in the little gap at the bottom. But I don't really know if that's true or not. So yeah, very easily dealt with Dive Missile because you can hit him from above, and that reduces the risk of having a missile slam into the drill bombs. So, like with the regular fight with Bright Man, you want to shoot him once with any weapon, and then exclusively use either the Rain Flush which is his weakness, or you can use Charge Buster shots as usual, and I'm unfortunately going to have to do that because I'm out of Rain Flush. Rather unfortunate. It just doesn't have a lot of ammo, but I think they figured Rain Flush was such a powerful weapon that they better not give it too much ammo, and they're pretty much right, I would say. And we move on. Next up is Skullman, so we're going to be using Dust Crusher, which unfortunately does not break through Skull Barrier. I would have preferred if it did maybe break through Skull Barrier, because, you know, I know the purpose of the refights is to, like, demonstrate how much more skilled the player is, because now you've got all of these boss weaknesses and everything, and you know their patterns down pat, so it's very easy to get through all of them in a little survival round, but, I think for some players this might actually start to get a little bit boring, because, you know, it's just fighting them over and over again with, like, the same level architecture. I mean, they decided to fill Dive Man's room with water. Like, wouldn't it be harder if there was no water? Then you would have a harder time jumping over him. And maybe they could give some kind of interesting level topography to Toadman's room. I'm not even sure if I'm using the right word. But, like, if there was a platform or something, it might be harder to stop Toadman from doing his Rain Flush. Which, it wasn't here. He's weak to the Drill Bomb, so that's something. And then Dustman. Again, you can't get past that invulnerability period when he starts sucking. But he's weak against the Ring Boomerang, as I mentioned. We all know girls hate it when rings get sucked into vacuums. Of course, I've had some valuable sucked into vacuums myself. Mostly some pencils that I like. And why am I talking about that? We are fighting Ringman, and we're going to be using the Pharaoh Shot. Charged Pharaoh Shots do him in 5 hits with the fully charged shot, and, you know, if you hit something with a Pharaoh Shot while it's charging, it doesn't actually consume ammo. It's actually possible to, like, not use any ammo at all if you pause the game, hold down the button, and then hit something with a charge shot when it forms. And Pharaoh Man's weak against the Flash Stopper. He's the only boss in the game that it actually freezes, so we're just going to shoot at him ad nauseum for a couple of minutes. Doesn't exactly make for exciting gameplay, but it's funny, shooting him point blank. So much for how awesome he was in the Mega Man cartoon, where he actually, like, just punches Mega Man in the face after his weapon gets taken. I've always thought that was amusing, and a lot of people did too. Alright, so I've lost my train of thought, unfortunately, so let's just move on to the final boss. This is a 2-phase Wily machine. The first phase is weak against the Ring Boomerang. The pattern is very rigid in spite of how difficult it might be to get used to it, but if you stand directly beneath it, where I'm standing, that's basically the safe spot. What you have to do is come out of that safe spot, however, in order to hit him with anything, including the Ring Boomerang. So you just gotta watch for the pattern that these shots come out in. And once Phase 1 is dealt with, Phase 2 starts. Again, fairly rigid pattern, but can be difficult to dodge. Wily is weak against the Drill Bomb here, but it's actually really interesting. You have to detonate the bomb early. If you directly hit the little gem, the Drill Bomb just bounces off. You actually have to detonate the bomb prematurely and hit him with the explosion that way instead. If you run out of Drill Bombs, you're unfortunately stuck with the Mega Buster, which you have to fire the charge shot at the highest possible height in order to hit him, and this is going to get very annoying. I'm going to end up using, like, several E-tanks here because the shots do a lot of damage. They're actually difficult to avoid, even if it's a very rigid pattern of 2 fired horizontally and 2 aimed at you. Yeah, I would have loved to have not had to use the last E-tank here, but I guess I'm going to end the game with 7 or 6 E-tanks, like I normally do when I play through this game anyways. Come on. One more. Come on, just one more. By the way, I guess I should mention at this point, since I'm not really saying anything else, you can actually conserve a charge shot if you charge up, pause, switch to another weapon, and you can actually hit Wily there with a Rain Flush if you still have one left. Unfortunately, if you destroy Wily there, the game will soft lock because it's waiting for him to get off screen, and if he's destroyed, he never gets off screen. But I suppose it's worth it if you get the best possible ending by actually killing him. I'm gonna do what I shouldn't have done years ago. So as I was saying, if you charge up, pause, switch to another weapon, then when you switch back to the Mega Buster, you will already be fully charged. You can store a charge shot. I don't really know how useful that actually is. So like with the ending to Mega Man 2, we have just one final stage, a second skull on the map, because why not? And it's nothing but a bunch of enemies you can farm weapon energy off of until the end. Look at how much weapon energy I actually used. Like, almost all of my things are empty. That's a sign of a good game, I would say, if you're actually using all of the weapons like this. I am not certain that I would call, like, having to use a specific weapon against this final boss, like, a good game design decision, because if you run out of Pharaoh Shot, then you have to game over to get all of it back, and that's, you know, after coming so far, that's not cool, really, but whatever. You just use a bunch of charged Pharaoh Shots, hopefully you can aim at him. It's kind of like the Ganon fight at the end of Zelda, where you have to predict where he will be. And that's that! Wily is defeated! We've saved the world yet again, even though it wasn't really in any immediate danger, because Kozak was only concerned with destroying Mega Man, and I don't really care anymore. In fact, I care so little that we are going to fast forward through the credit sequence because it's so very long for some reason. What are those train tracks there for? Oh well. Luckily, we don't have to do some sort of Metroid escape sequence. Would have been cool if we did, though. And don't you just love this? The mushroom cloud is skull-shaped, which I believe is a shout-out to Yatterman, if you know what that anime is. So yeah, credits are on double speed because they take so long and I don't want this video to go over an hour. I've mentioned that in the past. I'm very anal about this for some reason. Alright, so will we see the return of Yuki-chan's papa? Apparently not. Scroll designer. You need someone to design the scrolling effects? I don't get it. Miss 21? What? Special designer, Enough King. Well, I know who Enough King is, thank you very much. And the sound composer is Ojalin Bun Bun. These are some weird names. Not sure why we're standing on a train. I don't know what trains have to do with anything, but we see Mega Man without the helmets. That's interesting. And then we have the role of the robot masters from this game and their designers. So I'm going to make fun of all of you guys. Except for you, Atsushi Otsuka. I am so sorry your robot ended up being the worst boss in the game. And Masayuki Hoshi, you designed Drill Man, so that kind of comes back to bite us in Battle Network. So I don't know how to feel about you. But no, I'm kidding. All of these guys have contributed to my favorite Mega Man game in the whole series. So yeah, that's pretty cool of them. And we have the Mega Man 2 title theme playing in the background. That's also pretty cool. So yeah, that's the end of Mega Man 4, one of the most balanced and fun Mega Man games that are on the NES, I would say. Like, people would say 2 or 3 are better. I disagree. 4's always been my favorite, probably because I played it first. There's always that possible bias. And the charge shot, even though people say it made the game easier, it's still around in every Mega Man game past this point, even some of the spin-off series. Except for Legends, for some reason. That's always weirded me out, but whatever. Legends can do whatever it wants. So yeah, with Mega Man 4 out of the way, that leaves me with Mega Man's 5 and 6 for the NES games, and I'm not exactly looking forward to those quite as much, because when I finally played Mega Man 5, I didn't think it was all of that good. Like, it's not quite as fun as Mega Man 4. So, whatever I decide to do next, I will see you for whatever Mega Man game I'm playing next, whatever. See you guys!